Hey guys, this is Alana Terry. I hope that things are going well for you. Today I want to talk to you about procrastination. I want to talk about why we procrastinate, and then based on why you procrastinate, what you can do to get over your procrastination. So instead of jumping right into here's 10 tricks so that you're never going to procrastinate again, it's really important to look at the root of your procrastination, because people procrastinate for different reasons, and throughout the course of your career your propensity to procrastinate is going to have different causes as well. One of the easiest to diagnose causes of procrastination is just that your mind isn't trained to focus on something for very long. This is very common when you're used to constantly refreshing your sales page or checking Facebook or looking up at your inbox or seeing if there's any news headlines. It's really easy to get this kind of like ping pong brain where we're working for an itty bitty bit and then we get distracted by things. And so the two biggest antidotes to that type of procrastination are to train your mind to focus more. A digital detox can be a great way to do this. Focus on like prayer or meditation can also help you train your brain to just kind of quiet down a little bit. Another thing you can do is more practical, and that's just getting rid of the things that cause you to procrastinate and get distracted. So for example, if you know you're going to be having a big writing day, maybe what you do is you turn off your router so that you can't connect to Wi-Fi, or you put your phone in the other room, or turn off notifications, or things like that. Another type of procrastination is just if you're physically not at your peak. If you're really tired, it's in a lot of cases going to be way more effective to just take a little nap or catch up on your sleep and then come back to your work really refreshed. That's another major cause of procrastination. When you show up to work and you just feel super sluggish, it's very normal, and it's kind of your body or your brain's way of telling you you're not quite ready to invest the energy that it takes, because we don't often think about it, but writing a novel takes a ton of energy, mental energy, creative energy, and we need to be kind of performing well physically. And so that's why also things like exercise, paying a little bit of attention to your nutrition, these can help for sure. I'm not saying that any of us need to go like crazy extreme and cut out, major food groups or anything like that, but really pay attention to what your body's trying to tell you. Maybe it's telling you that when you eat that like really sugary dessert and then you end up with mental fog, maybe it's telling you to cut back on the sweets. Or maybe, when you just get that afternoon slump and you're so sluggish and everything aches and everything's like slow, maybe that's your body's way of telling you like, get up, move around. So again, you don't need to go to any type of extreme here, but it's important for us to remember that when we take care of ourselves physically, that's going to have creative benefits for us. So sometimes when you show up to work and you just feel too tired, sometimes the best thing to do is really either to like take a nap or make sure you're getting good sleep at night, or maybe move around a little bit. Make sure to stay hydrated. Like your brain is made up of so much water that you need to stay hydrated to stay like mentally healthy. And again, nobody needs to go to crazy extremes. It's just something to pay attention to, and each body's going to react differently. So it's just something that you can start paying attention to, what works well for you. Another type of procrastination is when we have a lot of creative pressure or maybe even creative fear. And so this would be the kind of procrastination where you want to get to writing, but you're afraid that people aren't going to like your book, or you're nervous because you don't know how you're going to tie these pieces together, or you're intimidated because it's a subject matter you haven't covered before, or it's a more involved story than what you've done, or it's a different tone. That's one of the harder ones. I think I'm trying to organize these, and the easiest to address. Getting good sleep, that's something that most of us can kind of do okay with, if you don't have a newborn screaming in your ear or something. Getting over creative hangups can be a lot harder, but a few things that might help you with this is, for sure, remember that the writing process is supposed to be fun. You can do all the editing, you can do all the critical thinking and the criticizing, you can do all of that later. In as much as you can take off your editorial hat, I definitely recommend this. I heard a story that really stuck with me where this guy had a stroke in a certain part of his brain, and it was the part of your brain that is involved in critiquing things. It can tell you if something's a good idea or a bad idea. It can tell you if something is aesthetically pleasing or not. That was a part of his brain that got ruined in his stroke. And once he recovered from kind of the initial bout of the stroke, he went home and he could paint like amazing pictures, and he had never painted before. He hadn't done anything creative or artistic before. And then as weeks went on, that part of his brain started to get more and more healed up, and he actually stopped being able to paint as well. And then he just gave up painting entirely. And I think the takeaway here is that we've got this editor in our brain who's telling us that our ideas are terrible ideas. And there's a time when we need that, right? We need that voice saying, no, don't do that. That's stupid. But in the creative process, we need to get that voice to shut up. And even paying attention to like your chronotype can help. Some people, that part of their brain is more active in the morning, in which case your morning's not going to be your most creative time. For other people, like I like to write in the evening because I think my brain's kind of tired of making decisions. And so I can turn off that inner critic while you're doing the creative work. That can definitely help. Another thing to help with kind of creative procrastination is just to focus on some prevention things. It's easier to prevent creative burnout than to cure creative burnout. And so this would be things like being in tune with your intuition. Is it time to slow down? Is it time to consume something? Is it, like if we're expending all of this creative energy by creating art and literature, then we should be absorbing that too. So maybe that just means reading some great books or enjoying other type of art, theater, or music, the things that help you feel inspired. It's important for you to do that. Like some people like to think of their creativity as like a person or even a pet or a child, like something that you need to nurture in order to have it flourish and grow. And our creativity is like that. And so in as much as we're expecting our creativity to work for us and to show up when we need it to, we also need to make sure that we're kind of feeding that creative side of ourselves. And then there's one more kind of root of procrastination that I wanted to talk about. And this is where more introspection might be necessary, but this is where things like fear of failure and or fear of success come in. So let's talk about fear of success first, because it seems and sounds very counterintuitive, but I think this gets a lot of us hung up. So maybe somewhere in the back of your mind, you think, I bet I could write a book, in a month. Let's just pick that. I could write a book a month, but you know what? If I start doing that and if that becomes my norm, it's just going to be too fast to keep up with. And trust me, I know some of you here write way more than that. I'm just picking random numbers, and some of you are like a book a year, and that's fine. It doesn't matter the quantity, but we have it in our head. If I become more productive, then I'm going to be busier. I'm going to be more stressed. I'm going to have to pay more for edits and cover designs. And so sometimes we hold ourselves back because we're scared of that. And I'm definitely not talking just about quantity. This can be for anything. So maybe, for example, you have it in the back of your head that if you became like a really well-known author, like a household name author, that you would be giving up too much. You'd be giving up your privacy. You'd be subjecting yourselves to trolls. Your family might have their privacy invaded, things like that. And so if that's in the back of your head, you're always going to be trying to protect yourself from achieving a certain level of success. And I'm not saying that we all need to aim for 12 books a year, or that we all need to aim to become household names. I just want to give examples of ways that you might have some type of fear of success that's actually subconsciously causing you to procrastinate. Another thing that I think is very common for us authors is this tension. And even if we don't necessarily believe it logically, there's a lot of us who feel like we either need to be true to our art or we can be a commercial success. And it's harder for us to get our minds around the fact that you can be very artistic and very rich from your craft. And so if you have it in your head that the only people who are making a good living from their writing are like creative sellouts, well, of course, no one here wants to be a creative sellout. And so your brain's going to be trying to protect yourself by saying, oh, let's not work on this book right now. So It's just a question to ask yourself. And again, this takes quite a bit of introspection, but is there a fear of success that's kind of the root of some of your procrastination? Same thing with fear of failure. If you go into every single writing day within the back of your mind thinking my readers are going to hate this book, that's going to be really hard to push through. And so one kind of antidote that you can do is like picture your most enthusiastic reader, like the reader that all of us would love to have 1,000 of, like who buys every single thing you make. They stalk you on social media. They know your cat's name. They know the names of all of your characters. They can keep your storyline straighter than you can. Like you're super, super, super fan. And imagine that they're reading the book that you're working on and they love it. Like sometimes even just visualizing those kinds of things can really help us get over some of our hangups. So those are just some of my thoughts about procrastination. And again, I feel like instead of just diving into how do we stop procrastinating, it's important to just ask ourselves, okay, why am I procrastinating in this exact minute? Sometimes it's going to be because you're tired. Sometimes it's going to be because you're discouraged. Sometimes it's going to be because you're creatively drained. So when you find yourself fighting procrastination, first of all, it's the best thing to just ask yourself, okay, where is this coming from? And then ask yourself, is it time for me to push through it or is it time for me to slow down? So for example, if your procrastination is just because you're tired or you're creatively drained, in general, it's probably going to be best to slow down, fill up that creative well, treat your body and brain the way that they need to be functioning at peak capacity, and then jump back in. If your procrastination is coming from like a deep-seated fear of success or of failure or of anything like that, then that's probably the kind of thing that you just keep on working through and plowing through. So again, this is hopefully helpful and encouraging for you guys, and I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you all later.